Hello everyone out there who's suffering under it's like an atom bomb went off. The streets seem so, instead of filled with people and life, it's like an atom bomb went off. There's no other way to describe it. Even if I don't have any money to go out, it is nice. Okay, you eat at home. If you have a little bit of money, maybe you can buy yourself a bottle of wine, take a walk downtown, watch life. I look into restaurants and see people eating outside of restaurants underneath umbrellas, and just a nice saunter around the streets, especially in summertime. It's as if you don't need to go out and actually spend that money yourself, as long as your tummy is filled with something. And if you're a good cook, or you've got some good recipes and you enjoy cooking, if you enjoy cooking, I bet you're a good cook. That's one of the keys to being a good cook. And then you take your little saunter downtown, and when you come back, you can open up that bottle of wine and enjoy it if it's a Saturday night or Friday night, and do something like read a book. You can't afford to go to a movie. Actually read a book for a change. Now, everything is dead out there. They say restaurants will never open again, and Trump has got a really good idea on how to get those restaurants to open again. You used to be able to take your receipts. If you took someone on a business lunch or a business dinner, or to an entertainment venue, you used to be able to keep those receipts, and when you're doing your income tax, you used to be able to get something back for it. You can't do that anymore. So this is going to make it possible for all these entertainment venues and restaurants to open again, because they know they're going to get a lot of customers. This is going to do it. Trump thinks like a businessman, and there's nothing or no one more important to run this country under this particular time of crisis, when we had to shut down the entire economy. We've never done this before, because this is such a fast-spreading virus. People have never seen anything quite like it. People look like they're recovering, and then all of a sudden they die. And it's much more contagious than the flu, even though more people do die of the flu. If we weren't doing this social distancing, more people would be catching it, and more people would be dying. We're hearing about these boats, these cruise ships that have, I think it's a Holland cruise ship, that it has dead people on board, and people who have this virus because it's spread through. I would never take a cruise. I have never, ever wanted to take a cruise in my life. Something about it, being locked on a ship, and you can't take a walk and just, I don't know, get away from that ship. And you've got all this water around you. It's like, if something happens, by gum, it's a scary thing. To me, it's a scary thing. Most of the time, nothing ever happens. But I'm not a cruise type of girl. But so we're hearing all these stories happening, and how quickly this virus can spread, especially in big cities when you've got a lot of people in close proximity. That's why the Midwest parts of this country, it's not spreading so fast. Also, people from these big cities, you know, from the coast that usually vote Democrat, usually don't. They fly over the Midwest. They fly over these states where houses are spread apart. Yet the people, even though the houses are spread apart, the people are close. You know, everybody's kind of like family or friends. It's very nice. But people from these big cities have nothing in common with people in the center of this country. That's why it's so good that we have the electoral system. People on the coast think completely differently. They don't want to spend any time in the Midwest. Never do they, or unless it's a business trip of some kind, or they have a friend from school that moved to the Midwest. They don't bother with it. Different kinds of people that want a different type of president, a politician, instead of a man who's in business. So we have the electoral system. So if we didn't have the electoral system, politicians would only cater to the needs and wants of the peoples in the big cities on the coast and wouldn't care at all. They would never campaign stop anywhere in the Midwest unless they really thought they could promise them something and get their vote. But a politician, like everyone that's running, except for Andrew Yang, he wasn't, he was a businessman, and Steyer, who's a businessman, but they're progressive to the point of no return. They're just this virus that's spread through the Democrat Party where they're catering only to people who come over the border. That's the most important thing. People who come illegally over the border. And they forgot America. It's not about America. It's not about helping Americans. No matter how many times they say the middle class is being hammered, they could care less about the people who lost their jobs and are depressed and suicidal. And the highest suicide rate is white men. And then after that, it's Native Americans. I know I've said this before. We've got the right president in office that thinks of all of these things that's going to get business going. We were roaring. Things were almost too good. But the thing about it is they can be too good. Except we didn't expect this disease. It's nothing to do with all the good that Trump did. It's a disease. Like I said, you cannot trust a communist regime that treats their people the way they do. They're expendable. And it's not just communism. The country, the people of that country have suffered for a long time under the emperor. The emperor wants his tomb built, and he wants you to make all these terracotta warriors. And they say that the first emperor, the reason why they don't want to enter it, it's in a mountain. And they actually built a mountain like a pyramid by pounding down dirt. And people would pound basically slaves. And they're treating their people now like slaves, slave labor. That's how they get all this stuff done. And unfortunately, they're producing all our medicines. And this year, no doctor asked me if I wanted a flu shot. And you would think that my allergist would have insisted, because I have asthma, that I get a flu shot. Nobody asked. And I'm glad they didn't. I didn't get the flu this year. And I can imagine with PBS reporting when Obama was in office how bad the water is in China. Every river, every pond, everything is polluted with poison. How can you expect this country to make our vaccines? We're still buying our masks from them, for God's sakes. And the guy, Wendell, the guy who does My Pillow, offered to cut down 75% of his product would be masks for us, produced in America, very clean, by a good businessman. But the only thing the left knew how to do was ridicule him. Getting back to China, it's very sad that people have suffered for an awfully long time. That you'd be pounding dirt just to make this pyramid. And you'd pound and pound all day in place. And then when you died, they kicked you over the side, because it was such horrible work, over the side of the dirt pyramid into a gully, and where everyone else was kicked over when they died. And they just buried them. And then after they got rid of the emperor, they beat him into submission too. They actually made him into a communist by torturing him. And he had a teacher that he had to obey. And this is how it was the change from emperor to communism. And then the teacher was made to be shamed because apparently he treated the emperor too kindly. He didn't, but maybe they wanted him to be a little more severe. So what they did was anybody who wasn't implementing communism correctly was marched down the street in a dunce cap, and they were humiliated. So people did suffer under the emperor, but at the same time it was a big country. And when you actually worked in the country and lived in the country, you didn't have this, unless you were working directly for the emperor, you didn't have this type of torture. But it still makes me grieve for these people who, through thousands of years, their intelligence and their artwork, is so exquisite. And what they are now today, basically just making junk, and the factories that make the junk pollute all the waters, and they push out all these carbon emissions. Right. And as you've heard, Obama, who just bought his $15 million mansion on Martha's Vineyard, right next to the water, and also bought another mansion right on the water in Hawaii, says that this coronavirus thing has to do with climate change, which we thought people had stopped talking about by now, and we can focus on something that's actually real. He has to make it so, oh, this only happened because... No, this happened because of China, the communist Chinese government. This is because of the labs in the Wuhan province near the wet markets, that many viruses, diseases, have been leaked because the conditions, they're not like this country. When you make something in a lab, or you make something, a pill that's going to cure you or ameliorate your symptoms, it's not washing hands. After you wash the hands, you sanitize the hands. You see your doctor when you go see the doctor. And being careful and following these guidelines because you're making medicine. You're making the medicine that we buy. You're making our vaccinations. And it's 1986, by the way, is when autism started to spike. And that's when we were getting all these vaccinations from China. So you kind of wonder, when they shoot that in your arm, how clean is that vaccination? I didn't get one this year. I didn't get the flu either, or a cold. I got a couple weeks ago. It was my fault. I got a little bit of a cold, and I use Zicam, which is something you get over the counter. All it is zinc, and then you put it either in your mouth or your nose, and it's zinc going directly into your bloodstream, and it boosts your immune system so your body can fight the common cold. I don't know how it would work on anything else, but it is getting zinc directly into your bloodstream to your immune system to boost it up. So it might help alleviate it a little bit, as we do know that this coronavirus, this COVID-19, is like a Franken virus. It's 3 different viruses together. Like SARS is a part of it. It's one of the 3 parts. I guess there's 30,000 parts to this particular virus. The smile has